First of all, name of Allah. Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today I am going to share with you my top tips for staying organized using a to-do list. Whether you are a student, a professional, or just someone who wants to get more done, this video is for you. If you find this video helpful, please consider subscribe to my channel for more content like this. Let's get started and create HTML structure in body tags and use heading 1, heading 2 hyphen do list and use input type text and placeholder, add new task placeholder and use button element open and close button name add and use UL another list and save the file, go to the browser and see the result. Now we will apply CSS on heading and input and on button. In head section we will use body selector, open curly brackets and close curly brackets and use properties CSS font family and use Arial, Helvetica, Sans Serif. After that we will apply CSS on heading 1 and use selector heading 1 open curly brackets and close and use extra line center. Now we will apply CSS on the input ID attribute and use selector new task new hyphen task open curly brackets and close curly brackets and use width 80% and padding use 10px. ID attribute use new task selector new hyphen task selector. Now we will apply CSS on button. Hashtag selector use selector add task open curly brackets and close curly brackets and use padding 10px and use ID and use this hashtag selector and add task selector using button. ID attribute use and use add hyphen task. Save the file, go to the browser and see the result and create external index.js file links. Open script tag and close script tag and use src attribute use equal double quotes and use name external file js index.js external file index.js file and use const add button equal document dot get element by ID and use ID in single quotes which we used in button ID add task. So we will use this add task ID in parentheses in single quotes add task ID use semicolon and use add button constant and use add event listener parentheses in between parentheses single quotes and use click comma and use parentheses arrow open curly brackets and close curly brackets Between curly brackets, use pop-up alert, use for pop-up single quotes, and use add new task semicolon, semicolon, save the file, go to the browser and press the button, and external file has been connected. Add new task. We will use function for input add new task. Const use const task input and use equal document dot get element by id and use parentheses single quotes and use id which we use in index.html input element id new task new hyphen task. In index.html we used this id and use this task input using log use const task text equal and use this constant task input dot value dot trim method, which is often used in programming language to remove white space from the beginning and end of a string. So use semicolon and use if condition, if parentheses and use task text exclamation mark equal and use single quotes and open curly brackets and close curly brackets and use const and use constant task item and equal create task item parentheses and use this constant task text and semicolon use, and now we will use task list and use task listing const task list equal and use document dot get element by id parentheses and use single quotes and use id task list. Use this id in index.html file in ul space id and use task hyphen list and in index.js semicolon use. After that task list and use hyphen and use append child. The append child method is used in JavaScript to add a new child node to an existing parent node. So we will use parentheses and use task item constant task item which we used in after constant as a task item semicolon and use task input dot value and equal sign and single quotes and semicolon use. Now we will use brand new function use comment function to create a new item function and function name use create task item this function name create task item parentheses and use argument task text. This constant use as argument task text. Open curly brackets and close curly brackets. In between curly brackets, we will use const and use li constant equal double quotes and use document dot create element parentheses and use single quotes li in list new item. After that li dot concatenate use text content and use task text use task text and semicolon use mistake here dot value and use return li semicolon file and go to the browser and add new task wipe and add button okay and create add delete button and use forward slash and comment use add delete button. After comment we will use const and use constant delete button equal and document dot create dot concatenate use and use create element and create button semicolon. After that we will use semicolon and use delete button constant delete button and use concatenate text content equal use single quotes and use delete semicolon. After that we will use add event listener concatenate add event listener and use single quotes click and function use parentheses and arrow symbol open curly brackets and close. In between curly brackets we will use task list concatenate use and remove child and use parentheses and li use semicolon. After that we will use li and use appendChild and parentheses and use constant delete button in parentheses delete button and use spelling mistake there button. Save the file and go to the browser and add new task cake and add button press and delete. Now we will apply CSS on this add item. In index.html file we will use hashtag and use task list task hyphen list open curly brackets and use property and value CSS task style type none list none, and after that use task list li and use padding 0. Padding 0 after that, and use selector task list hyphen li list. Open curly brackets and close curly brackets and use property display flex and second justify content is within semicolon. After that we'll use line items center, line items center, and after that padding use padding 10px and use border 1px solid, 1px solid hashtag and triple D. After that margin top 10px semicolon and remove hyphen from list and li. Save the file and go to the browser and add task. Enter button. Successfully apply CSS on list item and delete button.